All right. Thanks. Uh, yeah, where was I? So we were talking about uh, choosing the right method of training, and we said that in case it's very important to know how the trainers like to learn. More than how the trainers like to learn, whether whatever you're giving people or a group of learners, does it suit their current learning style? And more than ever today, in today's day and age, this has become very, very important. Never in the history of training has learning style and method. I mean, this is my this is my take, and I don't think I'm wrong in this. Never in the history of training has devising or understanding the learning methods or learning style of a learner been more important than now, especially after COVID. Because if you see what happened during the lockdown and when the entire world changed, was that the first, I mean, the mode or the platform of training changed. And today, if you see, everybody is on the phone. So, I mean, going a little philosophical or going a little ahead of our curriculum, if you look at it today, everybody has a cell phone in hand. Everyone has access to technology, even in remote areas, even in rural areas. And therefore, what you're going to impart, whatever I talk today on in this particular meeting, tell me honestly, it's available to all of you in different modes via your mobile phone. Yes or no? Where today,
Yes.
yes, where can you get what I'm talking about right now? Uh, if you want to look at alternate resources, tell me if today you feel that okay, fine, what Rita is talking about, uh, I want to refer to a few other sources. Where else can you get it? And what other ways can you get it in? Over to you. You can unmute and
Uh,
talk.
it's not just the
Yeah.
mobile phone. You can access it elsewhere from your laptops or whatever it is, and from the books.
Hmm. Yes, definitely. Books. Now, about 20 years ago or 15 years ago, it was either the book or the teacher or the trainer. Am I right? Yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
Now there are
Not that Adam. Now there are. Yes.
self-learning courses on Udemy.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Okay. Hmm.
so you can just enroll into one and you can just, I mean, complete it in the pace that you would like to.
Mm-hmm.
And you have
Okay.
mentors and guides from whom you can actually imbibe knowledge from.
Okay.
You,
There are mentors. Where else? Where else? Come on. Come on. Let's look at various ways through which you can look at something. And this is very important for today's session. Because after we look at the training methods, we are going to be looking at learning theories. I want to talk about those today. So, okay, you can look at a course on Udemy. You can look at various books. Where else can you pick up what I'm talking about?
Nowadays, it's
Yes.
easier to connect with people from all around the world. So we can connect with people and we can get the information from them as well.
Yes, you can always ask somebody to WhatsApp it to you. You can tell me, okay, fine, give me these notes. However, um, I don't know how many people I have here on this group between the age group of 18 to 20, 25, right? If you look at the younger generation today, they have access to so many tools, such as, let's say, there is okay, Google, of course, so many other online websites from which you can get. You can get sessions on YouTube. You can get ready-made PowerPoints. You can get, uh, I was asking someone the other day, what do you do? How do you get your notes if you don't get the book? They said we just put a question into ChatGPT. How many of you are familiar with ChatGPT? And the entire, just one question, you put in the right question, the entire set of notes would be available to you in a summarized form in something like a ChatGPT. Today, you can do a role play with ChatGPT. How many of us have tried that? You can actually
Have that.
do a role. You've done that. Wow, wonderful. You can actually do a role play with a chatbot, and that's generative artificial intelligence for you. And technology has advanced so much that a trainer needs to know that he or she has competition. The human being or the human trainer has competition today. And there's technology that's competing with the trainer. There is the book that's competing with the trainer. There is YouTube which is competing with the trainer. There is there are 100 other methods. There is vestibule. There is simulation. In fact, I wanted to show you. Let us see whether we get time. But how many of you have watched the movie Sully? Uh, uh, Tom Hanks. I think the film was made way back in 2016 or 2017 where
Yes.
he was asked to, actually, he was questioned after he made a water
Decision to
landing,
put down. Yes, ma'am.
decision to make a water landing when all the engines failed. And he was asked a question by the inquiry, why did you not turn back and go to the nearest airport? And they showed a simulator where they said the simulator tried and simulator made a successful landing. So you could have tried that. Do watch that if I get the time over here. I'd like to show you that video. Otherwise, you can definitely watch it on your own. But what we are talking about is uh, even methods are available online in very, many ways. And therefore, when I say choosing the right method of training, you need to know whether the same thing is available to the participant in different forms, and how can I make it more effective, more compatible to the trainee than whatever other method is giving the training. So that's the long and short of it. And therefore, we look at various training methods to check out learning styles. We already covered the last time when we spoke about learning styles, visual learners, auditory learners, which are the other two types of learners,
Kinesthetic learners.
kinesthetic learners, and
Multi-dimensional.
multi-dimensional, multi-dimensional or multimodal, where you're talking about a person who may use different types of uh, learning styles to make. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Can all yes?
Yes.
Can you all
Yes, ma'am.
see the screen? Yeah. Okay. So friends, with a little bit of PowerPoint, let's get back to today's session. I'll try to make it as interactive as possible so that it doesn't become a PowerPoint only session. But that's also part of our learning. And let's look at different ways. So one, we've already looked at why should we conduct choose the right method. We looked at various ways of doing a training needs analysis. We looked at types of learning styles, which we spoke about just now. For those of us who are not there, visual, auditory, as I mean, I don't need to explain the meaning of each term, kinesthetic, multimodal. We also looked at different ways. That's very important. It's a traditional. We are looking at set styles. I already discussed that. I'm not going back to that again. But here again, I would like to dwell a little for just half a minute where I said, what are the factors and what are the uh, reasons through which you can make, what are the variables that decide how a training method should be used. And we said learning preferences, availability of resources, resource availability and time available is very important. You may want to do all the training in the world, but if you don't have the funds for the training and if you don't have enough time, when I say enough time, I'm not only talking about the amount of time available for the training, but at the stage at which the trainee is. I hope you get what I mean by that. When I say the stage at which the trainee is, one is at the level of learning. Second one is where if there is an urgency of work, typically in the corporate scenario, all of you would have experienced that you will have project managers running to you at the last minute and saying, I want a group of people or a group of vendors trained on certain software processes or on a certain language or on a certain style of, or on a certain tool available in the organization. They say, I want these people trained on Excel functions immediately. When you say, I want them to be trained on advanced Excel functions immediately, then you also have to choose how quickly you will have to get them through all of these. And that's why I said stage at which the trainees and time available for you to get them onto that particular work immediately. If the deadline is very short, then you can't do a 1 month long training. You may have to decide how to give them the best of it. So that's one. And of course, like I said, is your organization friendly or training friendly? What does one mean by that? What does one mean by that? When I say, is your company training friendly? Over to you, friends.
So
Meaning,
I think if the
Yeah.
company is training friendly, they would look for numbers, how many trainings have been conducted, how many training hours of training have been done, are the compliances trainings done or not. That would be
Mm,
something which is a training friendly. When we say the learning friendly, they would not look into how many hours of training or how many number of trainings have been done. Rather, they would look for the impact. Okay, so you have done a training on communication skills, you have done a training on personal development. What is the impact or what is the
mm,
revenue like, because ultimately every company is looking for revenue, right? So what is the
mm.
impact on the revenue? That would be for a learner friendly organization.
Wonderful. So you're looking at where an organization is trying to connect learning or collective learning of a workforce to the productivity or to the performance of an entire organization. That is what we're looking at. Okay. So how does the company view and okay, it's very fine for me to say I want a set of learners, but is the company willing to train people on, I mean, after they have joined, or do they want a set of people who are already trained, said, I don't have the time to train you. You better learn from somewhere else and you come back. Okay. So that is also an approach which a company can keep. Is the organization committed to having an elevated set of people? I'm getting a little philosophical here, but I'm deliberately doing that. When you're talking about is your organization ready to invest in training that matters and ready to invest the right kind of funds and ready to get you what you need to make your training effective. That's one because the minute that is done, the people also get the feel that yes, my company wants to invest in me and therefore let me make the list of it. Now, this one thing, uh, that it's also people the company may also think that fine, I invested in training, but my people will leave me and go. So am I, as an organization, ready to let people go after I have trained? Right? So that's why we are looking at investing in training. Uh, we've already looked at David Kolb's experiential learning style. We've looked at cognitive methods of training. We've also looked at what are the two different types, cognitive, which is off the job, and behavioral methods, where you're talking about OJT, on the job training. All right. Uh, now, uh, have I covered this or do you want me to cover this again? Please raise your hands so that I know. Friends? Yeah.
You have covered this.
Yes,
This, ma'am.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am, covered this.
I'm not going into this again. All right. So therefore, you have the PowerPoint stuff. We are looking at, we looked at cognitive and behavioral methods of training. I also explained to you what one means by cognitive methods or what do you mean by the term cognitive, which is about the mental process. All right. Now, uh, let's quickly look at this and then we'll go a little further. Since In this particular class, we are looking at training that requires people to move away from the work setting or take time off from the work setting. We looked at these various methods of training, such as the lecture, the discussion method. When you say discussion method, when a set of people are sitting together and discussing a topic, not debating a topic. A demonstration where I said, I show you how to do things. Seminars and conferences where experts from all areas of that particular domain come together to discuss advances or new elements in that particular session. We are looking at also reading. So someone like you just said, if you don't want to listen to this lecture, you can always take a book and read. And reading today is available to people in various ways. It's not only the book. It's not only book. Oh, have I removed myself? So sorry about that. It's not only about the. It's not only a physical book like this. You can also pick up ebooks and you can read even content on the internet. Today, you look at the amount of reading that's happening on WhatsApp. In fact, that's something where, today even WhatsApp can be used as a method of training, or a lot of trainers are using uh, WhatsApp as a post training. How many of you do that actually? For learning transfer. So you conduct a training and then post training, WhatsApp is used as a to and fro way of reinforcing that learning. So that learning transfer happens until such time as the person goes on to the job and starts applying whatever was learned. That particular knowledge is reinforced to regular streamlining and troubleshooting. How many of us have done that actually? Okay, I can see hands raised.
Yes,
Yeah.
have did that. Hi, this is Gopal.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Gopal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go.
so what we used to do is, whenever
Mm,
after the post session, we used to share them a voiceover on a particular topic which we have already prepared for them.
okay.
We used to prepare teasers,
Mm,
WhatsApp nuggets type, so that on a regular basis, whatever the topics we have covered in a particular session, they
mm,
undergoes what we can say it as a capsule type learning,
okay.
so that they can reiterate by themselves.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
now, see, look at the various. I mean, during our times when I was in school or college, when I was going through a training problem, these tools were not available. All right. So I can see Radhika also has been using this, and many others. So we can also see Radhika, so many others. They are using this as a post-training follow-up tool. All right. Okay. Uh, then we are also looking at case presentations uh, where an actual workplace scenario. Pratibha Singh, you want to say something? I can see
Ma'am,
that you
I
raised.
will say that basically, since I'm a professor and I'm with students right now, so
Okay.
I have used WhatsApp for a number of things, like from assignments to notes and a lot of things that I have covered through WhatsApp groups. That for every subject we have created a different WhatsApp group specialization specifically, and then
Mhm.
this is how it is being circulated, because it has become very easy for students to access it, and obviously for us to share whatever we wish and whenever we want.
Yeah. Very, very true. It's become very easy to access. And Miss Pratibha, you will agree with me that it's a challenge keeping people away from WhatsApp today. And you can either, wish it away or you can accept it as a mode of training and use that further to enhance learning. I hope you agree with me on that, right? So that's what we're talking about when you say reading television. Uh, all of these are available for you right now, which you can see. We talk of business games, experimental exercises, role play, behavior modeling, computer modeling. I'll also be talking right now about computer-based training, vestibule training, sensitivity training, and computer-based training. Anyone needs clarification on any of these methods? Any questions on any of these? I'll
Can you please
answer that.
explain 15th and 16th?
Vestibule training. Wonderful.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We will be discussing vestibule training. In fact, I have a couple of slides on that. So we look at what that is. What else? What else?
16th, T group, sensitivity training.
T groups, I don't have a slide, but vestibule training, I do have a slide. Vestibule training is where you are creating the exact work scenario a little away from the work scenario. You create the same setting. Like for example, think of training on firefighting. How many of you, or how do the firefighters undergo training? They actually create a similar scenario wherever they have their training setups so that people can experience or people can learn how to fight a fire. Firefighters can learn how to fight a fire, how to extinguish a fire uh, without hurting lives. Correct? Similarly, for the pilots, right? You'll also see these air shows. Now, how are air shows conducted? Before they actually do the air show, there are a lot of practice sessions which happen at the training site. So the actual scenario is conducted. Uh, and typically, if you're looking at an industry setup, a shop floor scenario may be uh, present in the training setup at the workplace itself so that people can go take time, learn that, and then come back and use. All right. Uh,
Correct.
sensitivity training is a form of psychological, I'd like to call it psychological purging. For example, people have a lot to talk about, and that actually leads to personality development, personality change, and a way of discussing problems which you cannot discuss otherwise with people at work. So when you say sensitivity training, it's also known as T groups. Now, when you say T groups, as in a capital T, it started with meetings over tea, and where a group of people can sit together, open up, openly discuss their work issues or problems, sometimes even personal problems, and brainstorm solutions and look at solutions from other people, people who are sitting in the group, and find possible solutions and sort your problem. Now, when you say T groups, like the name talks about, is a very, very sensitive area and should not be conducted unless the trainer or the facilitator is well trained and certified on sensitivity training. Because, people, they break down, they start crying when they share their inner problems. We find it difficult many a time to open up about our issues, even if it's something that you don't know, about our work issues or personal issues with people who we are close to. You may not be able to speak to colleagues, you may not be able to speak to your wife or to your children or to your parents. But when you're sitting with a stranger who you don't know, you may feel more comfortable uh, letting it out. And you may also realize that the opposite person also has a similar kind of problem. So tea groups are done very, very systematically, and there are societies such as the ISAB who are experts in conducting tea groups, and then there are levels of trainer certification. You can't just become a tea group trainer unless you go through your certifications. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. So here T means the tea that we have. Chai.
Yeah, it's
Yeah?
become a cliche. You're actually, when you're saying tea group, it's actually a group which is talking over tea
Over
or
a
chai.
tea.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
fine.
On a
Yeah,
lighter
ma'am,
note.
there's one
So,
more question in the chat box.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
what is the difference between computer-based training and computer modeling?
Okay. Have you heard of something called have you heard of something called financial modeling?
No.
No, okay. Uh, see, when you say
Heard,
computer-based training, yeah. Is someone talking? Yeah,
yes, ma'am. Heard of it,
you
but
have
not aware
you
of
have
it.
heard of it. Okay. Now,
Heard of
when
it,
you
but
say
not aware.
okay, when you're saying computer modeling, it's similar to vestibule training. We are saying that that entire set of things that you want to teach people is on your computer. You do play computer games, right? When you go to these video parlors, we are looking
Yes.
at driving a car and all that. That is something like computer modeling. But when I say computer-based training, what are we doing right now? What are we doing right now?
So we are getting trained over a computer. Is it
Over a
computer-based
computer.
training?
Yes. Why? Why are we doing this? Why?
Because not all of us can gather at one place. We don't have time and resources for that.
Exactly. That is what computer-based training is all about. So today, when you're saying that you're using the computer as a base, now you all must understand, and that
It's
is
flexible.
not you, all of us must understand that today, post-COVID or post-2021, I would say, computer-based training is not a very new thing for all of us. But about even 5 or 6 years ago, or about 10 years back, computer based training was relatively new. Today, whoever you ask, will have two options. And sometimes, out of sheer laziness to get up from your seat and go to the actual venue, people might say, for the sake of convenience, let me learn online, isn't it? It's more, uh, it's uh, it's more convenient. It also saves you the expense of going up to that place, taking a flight ticket, and going somewhere, right? Uh,
Yes.
that has made computer-based training way more uh, I would say, frequent today as against the percentage of computer training which was being done, computer-based training, which was done way earlier. Having said that, yeah, I can see that Miss Pendarkar has raised her hand. Ma'am, just give me a second and I'll get back to you. Let me complete what I was saying. I met someone from who's working with Chase just a couple of days ago, and he was telling me how the organization has made these beautiful modules for interpersonal learning or for language learning, for interpersonal skills learning, for soft skills training on the computer in short modules through quizzes, through question and answers, wherein till you get the right answer, you have to keep on attempting. Are you getting that? And he says that it is mandatory for every employee to pass those tests to get your next increment or to get through that training. So the minute you say, you have a poll or you have a series of questions or like a Viva post, the computer throws the question at you, the system or the training module, and you have to give the answer. And if you have chosen the clicked on the wrong answer, you lose your marks. Again, you have to attempt that. And that way till you get the right answer. Now, what does this do? There are, and this is a beautiful cognitive learning method. What does it do to the training? One, it repeats the learning, and that way, you have to remember. You have to remember. And through 3 or 4 times of, going wrong and then coming to the right answer, you'll never forget it in your life. So it's like, fixing that particular element in the trainee's mind. And that's what the computer does for you. Just like a teacher would do that to a student in a class. Am I right? And he was telling me how language learning is being imparted to the management trainees or to new learners by most of the software companies to make that more effective. So this is typically an example of what I would say computer-based thing. Ma'am, I think Miss Pratibha wanted to talk. Over to you.
By
Yes.
mistake, it remained like that.
Okay. That no problem. Anyone wants to say something or give an
Um,
example of it?
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, yes. My name is Krupa. Ma'am,
Hi,
I
Kripa.
would hi, ma'am. Ma'am, I would require some more understanding on behavior modeling and job instruction
Okay.
training.
Okay. Uh, when I say behavior modeling, uh, who do children learn from? Who do children
Our
learn from?
our
Parents?
behavior. Yes,
Parents? Yeah.
Parents' behavior.
yes,
Who else?
parents,
Who else?
uh,
Who else?
teacher, friends, means all the
Immediate
people around them.
people around them in the
Okay.
house.
Now I'll give you a very, I'll say something. Uh, Typically, where do we pick up our fashion style from? Who do we look at?
Uh, Sometimes Bollywood, or then the
Uh,
our seniors in the office.
Wonderful. Yes. Yes. Seniors in the office. So you want to know how a vice president dresses up, or how do they carry themselves? Well, we all have our role models, right? And we look at those and we learn. So people are learning all the time by observing the behavior of others. Now, can you use that as a tool to get people to learn things such as code of conduct or corporate behavior, business etiquette, do's and don'ts of
Ma'am, it's
learning?
like a role model.
Sorry? Yes,
It's like a
you
role
said
model.
it's like a role model, or it's also in terms of positive reinforcement. People are watching leaders all the time. People are watching celebrities all the time. And that's where we learn how we conduct ourselves. And typically, I will never learn from somebody, or I will never imitate someone I don't like. Am I right, sir? Yes? I won't imitate someone I don't like. If I feel that I don't like your values, or if I feel that you are nothing, then I will not learn from you. But however, if there is even a little bit of an element that the other person has something better than me or something more than I, which I need to pick up and learn and emulate or behave in a similar way, it is only then that the other person will learn. So when you are talking of behavioral modeling, behavior modeling, where you're using different ways to get people to, I would say, copy behavior. All right. So you would bring in the best of people. You would use, say, celebrities, or you would use bigger personalities to help people understand that this is the way to behave. So you can do that in very many ways.
Ma'am,
All
can I
right. You
add
can,
something in this?
of
Ma'am,
course,
right
yes.
now the elections are going, and since I'm with students, I'll tell you Narendra Modi is one of the favorite persons to follow for fashion, for oration skills, the way he presents himself, behavioral traits that people are actually following.
Excellent. Look at that. One personality. And what a mega personality we are talking about. And
Yes.
there's so much of modeling that's happening by just, emulating one person. And you know what? Thank you for this example, because this is exactly what happens in an organization where people collectively follow uh, one personality's style of behavior, style of dressing, style of talking, and that becomes the collective culture or the personality, or I'll go one step further, soft skills quotient of the organization. What kind of language do the leaders use? What kind of how do people behave in a meeting? How does my leader talk in a meeting? What the kind of signals and symbols that he is using to communicate messages? All right, what does he approve? How do I know what is to be approved? And that same language, the same style of behavior, the same style of reward and punishment gets used by all team leaders across. That becomes a collective culture of the organization. That's your behavior model. Are we getting
Ma'am,
that?
can we also say that job shadowing is similar to this
Yes,
behavioral modeling?
yes. Shadowing is, of
Yeah.
course, a behavior model. Shadowing, of course, is also learning what the other person does on the job. How does he
Right.
strategize? How does he take decisions? Right? How does he, how does he what do you say? How does he deal with problems or conflicting situations, or when there's a crisis? How does he behave? All that comes under behavioral. What's the other one that you wanted to know about, ma'am? You said
Yes,
behavior.
ma'am. Yes, Krupa here. Ma'am,
Yes.
so I also required to know about job instruction training. However, before that, you were in behavior modeling, you were about to say in I can do it in in many ways. Means we all can do it in many different ways. Like one of the example is job shadowing. In case
Yes.
if I want to create any training module on behavior modeling, so how should I go ahead with it?
Well, if you want to create training on behavior modeling, you can actually use things like reels to show what is the right kind of behavior. And then you can ask people to role play or copy. All right. You can
Madam,
actually,
we are also creating the floor training. So behavioral like role playing modeling on the floor,
mm,
like some productions activities done from site.
mm,
So we elect the supervisors and seniors, and in the front of the junior workers. So we are giving a demos.
wonderful. On the shop floor itself, you're giving demo saying that this is how it can be done. Correct. And the person
Like,
copies.
ma'am, Nukkad
Yeah.
Natak is also a kind of this behavioral modeling.
Yes. Yes. Now, typically today, now, if you go to the net, you'll see that there's a lot of training on dining etiquette, which is done through right way of using a certain set of let's say fork and knives, or even eating with, let's say, chopsticks for that matter. So it's a right and wrong way. So actually showing, giving a demo, uh, you can use the behavioral modeling method in very many ways, and this is where I say the trainer's creativity is very important. How do you look at it? Anamika or Anamitra, I'm sorry. Yes, I can see that someone has raised their hand.
Ma'am, what I wanted to know was, is neuro-linguistic programming a system of behavioral training?
Neuro linguistic programming would go a little beyond that, because it's not just about repeating what somebody else has done. Neuro linguistic program is about connecting with your own patterns of behavior.
Ma'am,
What I
All right.
what I
this
think about NLP is, ma'am, NLP is
Bolo?
for one creating your mind thinking logic. So
Yes.
upon our
Yes.
behavioral thinking, so in
Mm.
front of your presence in the next people. So what do you think about him and what he think about you? So NLP is the observation is that, so you are getting as a behavioral your strategical thinking way and observation only that. What I
Yes.
think.
It's actually to do with your cognitive processes, where you're saying that how your brain works and how it responds to certain stimuli. So NLP is more psychological. Behavior modeling is actually when you're looking at right ways of doing something by, I would say, repeating what somebody else has done and telling them what are the right ways of doing something through actual action or actual behavior. Right? Miss Nidhi, there's something that you want to say I'll just take one quick way,
Yes.
yeah, and then we go to the next slide.
Yeah,
Yes.
ma'am, does this also runs parallel to the image consultant or the way image building is being done?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So an image consultant actually is telling you that, this is the way, let's say, a very senior person, someone like Mukesh Ambani would conduct himself, or this is the way Mr. Ratan Tata would conduct himself, or who have you on the industry. Yes, where they actually give you steps through which you create a corporate image. Ms. Upma Sharma, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I wanted to understand on equipment simulator, so I wrote it in the chat. I'm sorry if that has been discussed or if I missed it earlier.
You needn't be sorry at all. When you're talking about equipment simulators, we spoke about yes, fire. We are talking about fire extinguishers. We are looking
Oh,
at
okay.
airline training. All right. We are looking at shop floor. We're saying how to use a new machine. I think one of our, batchmates here just spoke about how an entire machine training or a similar, whatever equipment is being used, you can show that through instructing people step by step how to do it. And there is also a manual along with that, right? So for to help people use that. Yes, sir.
Instrumental this learning, like we have a dojo training center. So the best example where we have simulators of different machines and processes.
Yes, true. So you actually, when you have the machine, how many of us have learned driving?
Ma'am,
So when you
flight
learn drive,
simulators, flight
sorry,
simulators.
flight simulators. That is what I was talking about when I referred to this film called Sully, where they can show you hundreds of scenarios through which the aircraft or critical incidents through which the aircraft or which the pilot might experience, and what can he do in such a scenario. All right.
And I guess, ma'am, during the
Exactly, ma'am.
training session
Exactly.
also, like before they take the flight, they have a pseudo kind of equipment and how a cabin would be there, where they have all the brakes and how would they actually be imitating themselves as a pilot. So is it
Yes.
exactly the same thing, like
Yes.
real scenario, but in a
It
artificial
is.
manner?
It is. It is. It
That is
is.
what is called as vestibule training.
Okay.
Okay, so when you say vestibule
So
training, you're actually creating a parallel scenario. And why has this been done? What is the prime motive of that? I mean, why
And ma'am,
should
AI
someone?
also has a big.
ma'am, I would say that actually your motor skills are being trained along with the kind of situation that you would be in the air. Like you are so motorized, right? Like at what time and what seconds you have to press which button or put the accelerator. And so that when you're in the real scenario, especially in the panic situation in real scenario, you are so much immune to that you operating those I would not get the right word which would be used technically, but when you are in panic situation, since you have practiced it so much on an
Mayday. It's
artificial
Mayday
system.
situation.
Sorry.
It's
Mayday.
Mayday situation.
Yes,
Mayday
yes,
situation.
yes, Anamitra. That's what I wanted to say, that when you're in air, there could be any situation, but since you have the control of all the equipments in front of you, that could you could be better in the actual situation if you've practiced it on the artificial scenario, what I feel, ma'am.
Yes, of course.
The
Now there are
purpose
Flight
of
two.
sim.
going through it.
Yeah, the reasons for this are one. Uh, like you said, these are critical situations. They involve human life and death, right? And
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
yes, you're, I mean, just think of a pilot who's carrying, who's flying an aircraft with 500, 400 passengers. Even if people's lives are at risk, right? Even something like equipment on, on the shop floor in a factory. There are people who are working there. Okay, you're using advanced technical machinery. something goes wrong, somebody could be hurt. You're looking at something like firefighting. Okay, you involve human lives. So, what are the things that are important? Life is important. People's safety is important. And therefore, you can't directly put the person on work and you can't train the person on the equipment in a live situation. And that's the reason you need to create that actual scenario in a training setup where the person goes through the training, where human life is safe. But am I are we are all of you with me over here?
Yes, ma'am.
I can
Yes,
see that
Yes,
people.
ma'am.
Yes,
So
yes. Someone wants to say
Miss
something.
Rita,
yes,
Miss
ma'am.
Rita, just to
Yes, sir.
summarize, I mean, don't you think cognitive is about, I mean, making your brain sharper, and while
Hmm.
behavior is about teaching you how to act in basic, I mean, in certain situations or in certain way?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now,
Mhm.
you are saying that behavior is also about making your brain sharper, but
Okay, so
yes,
you're observing
yes,
things. I mean, probably, I mean, you're reinforcing the things in the employees. I mean, see, I mean, if you do this, this is what is going to happen. If you do this, this is what is going to happen. So you basically observe by your subordinates or peers. So that is what I think.
when I say cognitive, I'm saying that the information is stored in my brain. It is
Yes.
constructed. Okay, now you will say that there is a dichotomy or there is a conflict between the word constructing and
Mhm.
cognitive, but my brain is processing that, and I've stored that in my memory, and
Mhm.
I've also stored in my memory what to do, how to react in a certain situation, how to behave in a certain situation. So that's
Mhm.
where your behavior becomes important. When knowledge is stored in me, it is in my cognizance, it is in my knowledge bank. It's information which is there with me, which I can draw upon whenever I am in that particular situation.
It's
Does
damn
that
clear.
make sense?
It's very
Yeah.
clear. It's
Okay.
very clear.
Yeah.
This answer sum
Mrs.
ups everything.
Yeah, Miss Sampati, Pragya, wanted to
Yes,
say
ma'am.
something? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. My question was, what if a doctor is explaining about how to give a, like if a person is in danger or something and how to rescue, this kind of thing, training is given. So what category would it come with?
If it's a doctor,
Yeah,
are you,
no,
did you just mention doctor?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. A doctor saving life, prescribing medicine, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
wouldn't that come under a cognitive process, knowledge? And then, of course, there is something called skill also over there. If you're talking of a doctor conducting a surgery, some
Yes.
doctors are very skillful and some doctors are not that skillful. So surgery is also a skill. Dentistry is a skill, where how do you extract a tooth? Now that also becomes cognitive and then behavior. All right?
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
Since I had a couple of slides on vestibule training, I just thought I'd show you that so that it also gets recorded and then later on you can use those. Uh, mm, let's look at this. I've already explained to you what is vestibule training, right? Where you're saying you're actually creating a workplace scenario. We're also looking at what you call as business games. Now, when you're looking at business games, uh, you're actually, I'll give you one or two examples of business games where a person or a group of people can learn through, uh, you know, playing that entire, and like it's as if it's a game. It's not a real thing. What we do with some of our students is that you give them money, you give them fake currency of a certain kind, and you ask them to use that currency to buy certain things if you go to a particular country. For example, when you're training a set of people for expatriate assignments, the very first thing that comes to mind is how do they know how to use the money that is given to them? in, let's say, in Paris or in Italy or wherever it is. So when you give them euros, you also need to train them on how to use it, maybe at the mall or in the supermarket or even for work. So business games are actually where you help people learn through games. Now today, gamification and business games has become such a big area in computer-based training itself. So what I want all of us to appreciate is that today no one training method, whether it is on the job or off the job, on the job I'm not talking about, but off the job, all of these training methods have kind of gotten mixed up and blended with each other. So I can do a business game in the classroom, in the lecture hall. I can also do a business game uh, outside my office in the compound. Like you would do, let's say, a desert survival game, or you may do a goal setting exercise by throwing the by what is it that I use, the the ring toss game. Have Has anyone used the ring toss game at any point of time? I use that very often for helping to help people to understand their motivation levels. So you can also do a desert survival exercise where you put people, make them feel that you are stranded on a desert and now you find your way through all of this with a specific set of equipment. All right. Uh, just as an aside, I'm showing you what is this. Have you heard of something called six thinking hats? Has anyone heard of
Yes.
this?
Yes.
Yes. Out of-
Yes,
Now
ma'am.
this, yes.
Okay.
Now six
So,
thinking.
Ma'am, the
Yeah.
closest army equivalent would be living off the land training.
Yes, of course. So
It
you
would be
could
living
think,
off the land training where under a trainer's guide you are learning to stay alive on a particular land, on a
yes,
particular terrain.
yes, yes. For example, the commandos have their training, how to survive, or
Exactly, ma'am.
in
Exactly.
very
Mountain division training.
mountain training. Yes, all right. So that also is one way of getting people to live through very difficult situations or live in difficult survival, survival exercise.
It's
Right?
survival training. That's right, ma'am. It's
Survival,
survival training.
survival training. All right. Uh,
Ma'am, can you
what
elaborate on this six thinking hats because I'm not aware of this.
you're
If you
not
can,
aware of it, it's a very interesting
yeah,
method of way of getting people to think differently on the same issue.
okay.
All right. So let's say I'm giving you a should let's say there is a small case study
Mm-hmm.
on India's climate scenario. All right. So you get you create groups and you get groups to different groups to wear different hats, and through this people think differently. So the red hat thinks through emotion. The black hat plays the devil's advocate, which says, let's look at what can go wrong. The
Mm-hmm.
yellow hat is looking at the optimistic side of things.
So
The
from the
blue
starting only, we tell them that you have to think in that way.
Yeah, you actually
All right.
create groups where you tell them that the green hat. This comes from Edward de Bono's lateral thinking
Mm-hmm.
concept
Mm-hmm.
of lateral thinking. So, as a manager, when you come to work, let's
Ma'am,
say when
sorry
you,
for interrupting you. Can you repeat that
what do you want me to repeat?
name of the expert who formulated this training?
This is actually he's not a trainer, he's an author. Edward de Bono, a business
Okay.
strategist.
Okay.
Now, there's a book called Lateral Thinking Hacks. There is also a book called Six Thinking Hacks. Right? Now, this is where he said that a manager has to think in different ways. As a leader, as a strategist, when you come to work every day, you need to look at every issue in different ways, through different approaches. So the approaches are these six acts. Talking of the black hat, caution. White hat looks at facts and figures. The green hat looks at the prosperity side of things, creativity. The uh, yellow hat, sorry, I looked at yellow hat is the optimist, and last is red hat is the emotions, and last is the blue hat. The blue hat is the executive thinker who wears all the hats. And this is a beautiful cognitive training method where you train people to think in different ways. So the ideally first is where you wear one hat and then you keep changing hats, where you actually learn to shift your thinking from the blue to the green to the red, red to the black, and accordingly, and so on. So that way, a person's cognitive, abilities are improved, and it helps the person to look at an issue from various angles. Beautiful cognitive training method. Okay, so this is something that I am giving you in addition to what your books are talking about when you speak about cognitive thinking. All right, I can see that Mr. Arshad K has raised his hand. So,
Yes,
over to
ma'am.
you. Yeah.
Just can you explain the six hands with the example or something like that?
Okay, so what is the latest issue on hand which the world has? What is the latest? Okay, I'll give you an example.
The
Uh,
what?
Work
I'll
from office.
work from home. Okay, work from home is work from home. Uh, you know, going will work from home stop people going to the office completely? So this is your question. Or is work from home more productive than work from
Okay.
office? All right. So what will you
Okay.
do with? How will the red hat think? Red hat is the emotional part.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah, Parul has raised her hand.
So, ma'am, I think I just want to add to it, to the everybody one of the point of view,
See,
uh,
see,
for for the benefit of everyone, and if you think it's correct, the ideology here is that usually in a meeting, the biggest problem is that we all have perspectives, but our perspectives clash with each other. What
true.
this sixth thinking hat is helping us is that every ideology that we're bringing, all of us are thinking together on the same lines, so that we're not wasting our energies in presenting a case with each other. Rather, all of us are constructively thinking in the same angle from, for a particular issue that we want to solve. So let's say if work from home, all of us are thinking the optimistic way, opportunities which are there. What are the drawbacks of work from home? All of us are thinking together at the same cause, and we are putting those pointers against. So this way, when we are done thinking about a situation from all the angles, then we have a big chart of the issue side, the opportunity side, and then accordingly we can take a call.
Beautiful, beautiful. Uh, I just like to add one bit over here is that you may not like people to think alike all the time. In a group or in a meeting, you also need to, you can also have different
Groupthink,
points.
ma'am.
So to
Ma'am,
avoid
groupthink.
groupthink, no, groupthink is where everybody's thinking the same. And a lot of wrong decisions can take place when everyone thinks in the same direction.
The Iraq War.
Here you're looking at different ways of handling the same situation. And where you're taking a strategic decision, we are looking at a blue hat wearer who has the final say, who has taken a synthesis of the black hat, which is the caution, the green hat, which is the creative angle, the yellow hat, which looks at an issue optimistically, where you say, okay, oh, everybody can soon, have the best of both home and, you can look at the brighter side of things. You have the white hat, which looks at numbers, facts, and figures. And the final decision is the synthesis of all views. All right. That is where you are taking a decision based on different opinions and evidence. All right. Uh, I'm not going to appreciative inquiry right now because, yeah, oh yeah, someone said something because we have to move a little further. Uh,
Just
right?
to mention, ma'am, quickly that
Yeah.
accidentally we missed JIT, that is job instruction training.
Okay. Uh, when you're looking at job instruction training, you're actually giving people a standard operating procedure through which
Okay.
certain things need to be done. Point in case over here, for example, uh, you look at how uh, airline crew or air hostesses or flight pursers are trained,
Yes.
right? How to serve a passenger, how to serve a guest. The training is so systematic where you're actually telling people what to do, what not to do, and how exactly to service a passenger. Now, I was told by someone who's a trainer who used to be a trainer with Jet Airways, which was later on taken over. They call them guests, they don't call them passengers, gets into an international aircraft. In the executive class, there are people who wear blazers or their coats, and the airline crew has to actually help them, take off that blazer, and it has to be hung on the seat in a particular manner. And this training is done through specific instructions till the person gets it right. Are we
Okay.
getting that? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then
Thank
an
you.
analysis is done to check whether that is being done right. And we've had so many cases, the minute an air hostess drops something, she's also a human being, poor thing. But then her job requires her to do a certain thing meticulously. I'm sorry, see, all my examples will come from the soft skills arena, right? Because I'm very passionate about finding out how this is done. Now, even something like how much to smile and how much not to smile. Right? She can't be over effusive and also nice. At the same time, she can't be glum. Right?
Yes.
That
Mm.
training is also given, through instruction, how to do a certain, what to say, what not to say. Do this, do that. That's your job instruction training. Certain
Ma'am, what
job,
about,
bolo,
sorry, what about planned progression?
planned progression is where you're looking at levels of training. You're trained on level 1, level 2, level 3. So you start at the basics, then you have the typically for English language training. You for a person who's at the basic level, or you're looking at communication skills training. So you may first start with the communication process, how communication happens. Then you train that person on advanced vocabulary, and then the person goes ahead and does. So you are also setting it at timed intervals. Are we getting that? So when you're looking
Yes.
at planned progression, your training module is prepared in such a way that you take people. Now, for example, recently we organized a leadership training for a leadership intervention actually for a set of three team leaders who have been earmarked by the organization for higher roles. The first level of training would be to understand what level at which they are, and then tell them about different leadership styles. The level 2 of training would take them a little higher, where they would be trained uh, on taking strategic decisions. That may go through a simulator. So you're looking at planned progression. You can't cram a trainer with everything at the beginning itself. all right? And it's very important uh, to understand that training cannot be done in one go. You have to give people time to absorb what is given to them, practice that or reflect on that till they are ready for the next phase of training. Answer your question?
Yes.
Or,
Thank you.
yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Also, one last thing, creation of assistant to positions. So, does that mean creating trainee positions for freshers to get an opportunity to
Yes.
start getting
That's
the exposure to
definitely
the
when you're looking at assistant to, what is the term that you use? Assistant to position.
creation of assistant to positions?
Uh, you will typically see uh, a very senior, top manager, someone person at the CXO level. It could be a CEO, a COO, is usually shadowed by one or two trainees or maybe an understudy. Word of the word understudy. Okay. So this person could be a graduate or a postgraduate from a premium B school. And this person is moving everywhere. So he does the role of an assistant to the CEO or to the COO or the director, whoever it is, acts like a secretary also sometimes, an executive assistant. And this particular person is not an actual secretary who's doing, may have to develop as a secretary once in a while, also to travel with that person. But an assistant to a particular position is when in due course of time, after a specific period of assistantship, that person can be promoted to a senior role. He's being trained to see how a person functions, how a senior man functions in that particular leadership role.
Ma'am,
You
may
will
I
have
come in
various,
somewhere?
definitely, yes. Yes.
Ma'am, US congressmen usually
Hmm.
recruit graduates from universities to do the research
Wonderful.
and the assistantship for them and the
Yes,
research papers for their particular projects or issues that they want to address to the Congress.
that's an excellent example of assisting to a particular. Uh, you're actually finding information for them. You're doing research for them, and you're also learning. There are 20 ways of looking at assistantship where you're saying that okay, I have to do all this work for somebody. I'm overloaded, but you're also getting yourself prepared for senior positions. So that's your assistant to
Ma'am,
position.
also teaching assistantship in US universities.
And that's happening now in India also. You're saying teaching assistantship, you're actually, for example, a premium B school here in India, in Mumbai, right next to my house, has teaching assistants.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Yes,
they
ma'am.
know the subject better than the teacher,
Hmm.
and they supply information. They come in wherever the teacher is stuck. Now they learn more, and they give that the teacher does the job of teaching. All the assessment and the evaluation of the students during the case studies is done by the assistants. The management training that trainees are taken at entry level as assistant to senior. So these are all positions through which the person is observing, acting, learning, and also performing at the same.
Thank you, ma'am.
Does that answer your question? Does that answer the question?
Thank you, ma'am. You did.
Welcome. Welcome. Okay. Uh,
Hello.
yes, I was, yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry. I think I have been raising my hand for a couple of times, but I think
May I know
because
who
of
this is? I can't see. This is, yeah. May I know
hello,
your
ma'am.
name?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
Jugal.
Yes, Mr.
Uh,
Jugal.
So I just
Hello.
wanted to confirm a couple of examples. I think you just mentioned that plant progressions. Can we understand from that, like if it is come to a corporate kind of a structure and where the IJPs are getting released, the internal job
Hmm.
postings, and where you have planned certain programs for those individuals, and until and unless they are not clearing those toll gates or maybe those guardrails, you are
Hmm.
not going
Sorry, I can't hear you. Has your voice gone away?
I think he got disconnected.
Okay, fine. So whenever he comes back, he can ask. Mr. Jugal Kishore, oh, he got disconnected. We haven't.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am, I have question.
Yes,
Actually,
please.
I want to get on the point of sensitivity training free groups.
Hmm. Tell me.
Yeah,
Uh,
sensitivity training. Actually, I also joined very late due to some technical issues. So might be
mhm.
you just explain on topic. I'm not getting clear points on that sensitivity. So let me just a small brief on this sensitivity training.
Okay, I'll just tell you quickly in about 2, 3 minutes because
Yeah,
we spent
yeah, yeah.
about almost 5, 6 minutes on sensitivity training. And later on, I'll add a few slides to this so that you can connect it.
Okay,
When
okay,
you talk of
okay.
sensitivity training is like is actually a psychological method of getting people to brainstorm or speak out their issues
Mhm.
with
Okay,
a group of people who are systematically placed, I would say, in a circle, like a group of people sitting down for a cup of tea, and that's where your tea group comes in. Over there, the word tea
okay,
group
okay,
comes in, and
okay,
it's a behavioral purging or it's a way because I cannot talk to my own people if I have certain issues. It could be colleagues or it could be my own family, but I can talk to strangers, and strangers can help me find solutions to my problems. So T groups are sensitive. The very term when you say sensitivity training, they are very sensitive, very delicate to handle because people can cry, people can bring out their innermost secrets. They may speak about things that they may not speak to the others, and therefore solutions are found by the group for them in the way of
okay.
talking. Okay, while you are talking,
Yes.
you need very, very smart and expert facilitators to conduct a team group because emotions are involved, high emotions are involved, and secrets are involved. And therefore,
Okay.
it needs high confidentiality and high sensitivity to human emotions. And it needs a lot of training. So there are bodies which conduct training for that.
Alcoholics
And then,
Anonymous?
sorry,
Alcoholics Anonymous?
Alcoholics Anonymous, of course, but there is psychology that's involved. There is something called a landmark forum, if people have heard of this. Training goes on from 7 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock in the night, and they conduct these levels of training. Or there is something called ISAPS, Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Sciences. They also conduct this. All right.
Okay.
But I
So,
don't
Miss
want
Rita,
to
don't you
come.
think these things are handled by the business partners, that is HRBPs, and don't you think Posh is also, I mean, a sensitive type training?
Posh is not Posh is not sensitivity training.
It's in
When I talk about
harass. Okay.
sensitivity, see, let's differentiate between sensitive training and
Mm.
sensitivity training. Sensitivity training or team groups is a special type of training or is a special body of training. So everything for that matter is sensitive. If in a training on communication skills, I constantly pick up on a person who's poor in communication skills, it's a
Mm.
sensitive thing. Once I was doing training on emotional intelligence, and we were talking about how to manage your emotions. And a person, came out with something very personal, and I had to handle
Okay.
that in a very sensitive manner. For any training, for that matter, whether you do role play, whether you do any other training, it is you have to be sensitive. Post training is where you're telling people what are the laws related to workplace harassment or gender harassment, and where you're
Okay.
telling people how to take care of yourself. That, in fact, is an instruction training. We are telling people what to do and what not to do. But
Mhm.
sensitivity training is a specialized body of training where you're getting people to sit in systematic groups and well helping them to talk about. This goes completely into the domain of behavior and psychology. and it deals
This
with
answers.
personal elements. All right? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
ma'am.
Ma'am,
yes,
ma'am,
ma'am.
diversity and inclusion trainings can
Uh,
be sensitive part of this.
no, no. Diversity and inclusion today are new areas of training that are actually helping people to understand how to include people from differently abled sectors or women or from different cultures to work with you. We're actually training people on how to behave where you are in the midst of uh, people working in different cultures. So there you also sometimes may have to use role play simulation to help people, cross-cultural training for that matter. All that comes under diversity and inclusion. And there are different training styles for that. You're actually looking at the DESO model or iceberg training model. You can go deeper and deeper into that. So that's diversity.
Okay.
I
Excuse,
think we
excuse
are
me.
digressing from the topic.
Yes, no problem.
Uh, we were talking about training methods, and I think people are asking on name of the training, so that one training can be done by different methods, right? So I think we can move forward.
That's okay. That's okay. When I mean somebody asks a question, we can definitely answer that and move on.
Yeah,
Fine.
sure.
So we were looking
Excuse
at
me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am, please.
ma'am, we have
What is
another
what
5 minutes.
what is ma'am?
Yeah.
What is Textra method of training, please?
What method?
Textra method.
Have I put this somewhere in the slides here? Is it in any of your particular slides?
I joined late, ma'am. I couldn't know. I
Ma'am,
don't know.
ma'am, we'll take this in the next class.
Okay,
Because,
okay, ma'am.
okay,
Okay,
what
okay.
did you mention? Extra method.
Textra, TEXTRA.
Sorry, I'm this not part of this, but I'll take it in the next class for you.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
ma'am.
I'll do
Thank you.
my
Thank you.
homework on that. All right. So,
Ma'am, one more point. Ma'am, one more point, please. Ma'am,
yes,
ma'am, can we have the YouTube link for the first class, please?
that of course we will be sending you. Let's talk content right now. Sending the links, etc.
Okay,
I'll take care of that for you.
sorry for disturbing.
That's okay.
I think last pop on WhatsApp
Amit sir,
shared link.
it's there on the
Yes.
WhatsApp group, the link.
No, it hasn't been shared yet. The other 3 sessions have been, but not for this particular session. Even I'm looking for the YouTube link. So, ma'am, if you could please share or tell someone to do that, that would be a great help.
We will definitely do that for you.
Yes,
Can we
please.
focus on the class, please? Can we do that? So that
Please,
we use
please.
the next
Yes,
5 minutes for learning.
Ma'am,
All right?
I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt because the way from past 2 sessions I've been observing the way we are going, especially I'm talking about the entire class, the way we are going, we will not be able to complete the syllabus, is what I feel.
Right, ma'am, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We will be completing the syllabus. And I get your point. We respect that. Next 3 minutes. Okay. So I give you a choice now. Do we speak about role play? So in the next class, I'm going to be speaking to you about the 3 theories of learning, which is uh, we are looking at cognitive learning theory, we are looking at constructive learning theory, and we are looking at the classical classical conditioning. So do we want to move to that right now, or do we have another 3 minutes? We look at role play.
Ma'am,
What
I
do
think
you
role
feel?
play would be better because
Okay.
that would
We
give
can
Now
us
there's a
elaborate
lot.
role play, ma'am.
involved discussion.
Role
Okay.
play,
Ma'am.
All right. Okay. Now, next class, we start directly with the learning theories and we look at those. So that would require a lot of brainstorming. When I speak about role play, how many of you are familiar or not familiar with role play? And what does it mean?
For me, I will do all the offline session role play with my candidates.
Okay. Looking at the role play in a scientific manner, looking at the role play in a scientific manner, what you're actually getting people to do is uh, enact a particular scenario, enact a particular caselet or a case scenario, or emulate or try to learn something by getting into the shoes of that particular role. So typically, when you say a role, a manager has a role to play and a subordinate also has a role to play. When a manager and a subordinate talk to each other, uh, in a live scenario at work, actually, it's not always the right words that may come, or a person may not always use the right tone. But when you're using the role play in a work scenario, or in a in a training scenario, you're allowing people to practice different styles of interacting with the opposite person till such time as that particular role understands the right way or the right ways of interacting or behaving with what I like to call the significant other. This term may be a little uh, new to some of us, but for example, let's say uh, since all of you are HR managers, or let's say I'm an HR manager. In my role as HR manager, I have to interact with different types of people. Let's say there is an accounts manager. What relationship do I have with my accounts manager? Over to you, friends. Do I have a relationship with the accounts manager who's a parallel to my role in the organization? Do I have a relationship with him? Yes or
Yes.
no?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, yes,
Yes.
ma'am. Of course,
He
yes.
doesn't process people's salaries. If he doesn't send the money to the bank on time, then uh, my role would be of no use. I cannot afford to be in conflict with the accounts manager in my organization. So, in case there is a certain way in which I need to interact with the accounts manager or need to communicate or behave in a particular, what best way than to practice a role play in a training setup to decide how I can develop a nice relationship with my accounts manager. So when I say accounts manager and a HR manager, both of them are significant others to each other. I cannot function without the accounts head. The accounts manager cannot function without me. So role play helps to build bridges and relationships between people. And it's a beautiful way to help people overcome shyness, especially in communication, especially in a very nice way of teaching people how to communicate non-verbally. And when you say role play can actually be done 3 or 4 times, and you can record it. Uh, Ideally, I would have liked people to enact the role play over here, but right now it's 11:30. We can't do that. We'll do some role play enacting in the next class if time permits us. Right? Role play has to be handled in a very now again in a very smart manner because people sometimes take time to open up in a role play. A very big factor which comes in the way of role play is shyness or what you say reticence. Because you don't want to go wrong in a role play. And therefore, people, sometimes hesitate to even join a role play. Also, you need to give people time to try different methods. You can't cut down a person and say, this is not the right way to do it because people sometimes, you know, uh, take it personally and will never come back to a role play again. If the trainer doesn't handle role play well, you can do a lot of damage to the trainer's morale and motivation to learn something. Having said that, the role play has its limitations because sometimes when you need to tell, you can't do technical training through a role play. Another thing, like I told you, now artificial intelligence or even through Chat GPT, you can practice role play by using a chatbot as your significant other. It's a very good tool for learning language. It's a very good tool for learning articulation skills and pronunciation. All right. So that's so much about role play. Uh, yes. I'll now take questions. I can see two or three raised hands, two or three questions, and then we'll stop here because I know you have to attend the next class.
Rita ma'am, could you just please repeat your last line? You talk. Hello.
Yes. Yeah, continue.
Yeah, ma'am. When you were closing, you talked about certain trainings that can be done online. I think you said. I think because of network, I lost you there.
Training that can
Hello.
be done online through
Yeah.
what you call as generative AI or
Generative AI.
generative AI or even through, let's say, Chat GPT or by
Mm-hmm.
using, by communicating or conversing with a chatbot who would play the significant other in the training and you talk to that person. So you don't always need to have another human counterpart. You can have an AI counterpart who will
Mm-hmm.
communicate with you, and that way you can practice. All that is done by companies such as Infosys or
Mm-hmm.
L&T, where people are trained by giving doing a role play with a chatbot.
So
Does it
just
answer your
like
question? Hmm.
I'm somebody. Yeah, Rita ma'am. I'm somebody who understand things better with examples. So just a quick example. I think I
Hmm.
have some people who are working with certain organizations where they are supporting people in their mental health space. So you mean that there is a chatbot and I sit and I drop a text that I'm feeling anxious today and the chatbot says something to me in revert, right? That's what you say?
That is actually counseling by a chatbot, right? Where actually I'm purging
Okay.
myself. Role play
Okay.
is where, let me give you a scenario, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so your manager has been giving you
Yeah.
too much work of late, and you need to
Mm-hmm.
speak to him because you feel
Yeah.
overwhelmed and you
Mm-hmm.
are overloaded. You want to tell him that, sir, don't give me so much work, or sir,
Mm-hmm.
allow me to work at my own pace. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to practice this before you actually go and speak to your manager. So you
Mm-hmm.
can actually do a role play of this by making somebody a manager and you practice various ways of communicating
Mm-hmm.
with that person. So that is
Mm-hmm.
where an AI chatbot can actually help you out if there is no other human being to speak to you. All
Perfect,
right?
ma'am. Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah.
Last,
Thanks a
yes,
lot.
my pleasure. Uh, last question and then we'll stop, please, because we have to. Are we good, all of us?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, uh, can you tell me the difference between role play and simulation, ma'am?
I think we discussed that role plays where two people or two or more people are actually talking to each other or are enacting, like in drama, okay, through a dialogue. Simulation is actually where an entire artificial scenario is created with equipment, like a boardroom scenario is created, and you're in that setting and you are doing a role play over there. Okay, simulation is actually creation of an entire work scenario or of a machine in an artificial setting.
Okay, ma'am. Means role play generally involves approx two to three people, right?
It can be yeah, two or
So,
three people.
means it is on a much smaller scale, right?
Yes, it's on
Okay,
a
got
much smaller scale.
it. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right.
So I think, Miss
Uh,
Rita, role plays can also be considered as a mock scenarios, like where we are giving a hypothetical situation or maybe a
yes,
particular problem statement where we are actually dealing with,
yes,
and
yeah,
we really want that individual to perform the way we really want him to be trained. Correct?
yeah. You're actually giving a person space to practice different styles
Correct.
of performing, and then arriving at his own, and then there is a debriefing after role play. So where does the facilitator come in? Facilitator has to be a good, has to be good at debriefing.
Correct.
So you tell persons when you tried out different styles, what worked here, what did not work here, right?
So
And
maybe
then
I
move.
think the feedback will also be a part of that particular thing, like where you can use a sandwich technique, you can use a 2-minute challenge kind of a technique, and then understand that whether the particular person or the individual has performed the way we wanted him to or not.
Yes. So when you say feedback, feedback uh, is included in the DP. Okay. Yeah. All right. Uh, shall we stop here? I can see there are lots of questions, but there is always the next session. I hope today's session has been fruitful for all of us.
Yes,
There
ma'am.
are some.
Very much helpful and clear each points. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
Thank you.
Lovely session.
Thank you,
Ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
My pleasure.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot. Take care, ma'am.
Thank you,
Amazing
ma'am.
journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.